All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I apologize. We got in here just a few seconds late. Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Political Spotlight. I am your host, Christopher H. Bilbrey, and we are here on a very special Saturday night. I know for most of the viewers, you're probably used to me being here on Saturday night because until last weekend, I normally was here on a Saturday night. But with the new hours, we are normally here Sunday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. No shift in the time. It's 9 across the straight of the board, so we're good there. However, I felt that we needed to do what we could do, and we needed to come on this Saturday evening show because we have a very, very, very important guest, a very important topic. So before we get into that, and so we're not messed up with anything and all of the housekeeping issues, do all of the YouTube things, get them out of the way now. If you're on YouTube, hit like. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the bell so you stay up to date when we release content, shorts, and other static videos. This is a very interactive show. For those of you that might be watching this for the very first time, for those of you from Madison County or that might be elsewhere in the state or know what's going on and you've snuck over here and you're going to be watching this, we are very interactive. So producer Kate is in the back room down in the duck is how we call it. You can't see her, but she's waving at me. And she will be there. She'll be reading the comments. I'll be reading the comments, and we will be ready to go. And we're going to be bringing on a very special guest here in just a moment. And we're going to be talking about total chaos in Madison County. So if you are familiar with my show at all, you know that we focus mostly on two things here. And that is politics and education. It's politics 100% and education of the political process. We try to expose the corruption and we try to better government through our citizen involvement. And we look at government on the local, the state, and the national theaters. And that's what we like to do here. That's what our viewers and our watchers like for us to do. So that's what we do. And tonight we're going to be focusing on, it's like a little sister city to me. I live in Muncie, Indiana, which is in East Central Indiana, northeast of Indianapolis, Indiana, the state capital by about 50 miles, 50 minutes. And Anderson is like our twin sister city that's just to the west by about 30 minutes. Where we're going to be talking about this evening is Anderson, Indiana, Madison County. We are going to be talking tonight to Dr. Katherine Callahan. And she wanted me to point out to you that I made a mistake. This is not her. There's going to be people out there who will be saying, see, she's lying already. She wasn't the chief deputy coroner from January 1st, 2021. She pointed out to me that this was my mistake. She was a deputy coroner from January 1st, 2021. And then at some point after there, the chief deputy stepped away, resigned, and we'll get into all of that. She'll be wanting to talk about all of that. And then she became the chief deputy coroner. She was most recently the chief deputy coroner in Madison County, and she stepped away there on the 2nd of December, 2022. She is currently a candidate for coroner in an upcoming Republican Party caucus at 6 p.m. Monday night. That's just in a couple days from now. Monday night, August 21st, 2023. Will I get to be there and video this? Is it going to be an open caucus? Can we go and watch this process? Is it going to be a closed caucus? Are they going to allow transparency and light and spotlight in? Are they going to try to keep it corrupt and dirty and all the same rot? We're going to talk to Katherine and find all of that out. And without further ado, we're going to be bringing up Dr. Katherine Callahan.
Good evening.
Hello.
How is everybody?
Well, I think we're doing good. I think the people are doing good. I hope the people are doing good. Before we get started, this is your time to share, ladies and gentlemen. Please share this. This video live cast is going out tonight on YouTube. It's going out on Facebook, and it's going out on Twitter. We have the link there. The show is called The Political Spotlight. The name of this episode it's the 7th episode. We've recently rebranded, but the name of the show is The Madness in Madison County. The Madness in Madison. It's total madness. So, Katherine, how are you?
I'm great. You know, I feel like I'm in a win-win position no matter what happens with this caucus. No matter how anybody looks at the coroner's office for the last 2.5, 3 years, you know, we have really opened the eyes of what the coroner's office does. And, you know, coroners in Madison County only make $9.45 an hour. And that's kind of how your elected officials look at coroners in Madison County. You know, a coroner in Madison County only makes $26,000. Now, if you have a doctorate, then you make 1.5 times that, so you'll be up to $39,000. And so it's been crazy to me to see that our own Republican Party had an opportunity to have a physician over the office. And there's only about 6 to 9 physicians in the whole state. I think there's a chiropractor that are coroners.
Sure.
And you have this opportunity to be the best of the best, and yet you defund your coroner's office. You take every shot you can to make sure that his office fails. And you circled your wagons until he tapped out. Now, what's amazing to me is all we wanted was a morgue, a place where we could house the bodies of these deceased, a viewing room. You know, I'll get complaints all the time that patients didn't, or not patients, that loved ones didn't get to visit with their deceased one at the scene. Well, that's not always the safest place. Plus, we have officers that need to get back on the streets. We have a lot of moving parts that are going on. We might have other cases going on. But Russ Willis and Jerry Alexander and Rob Steele and Ben Gale and Anthony Emery would trip over themselves to bring anybody who wanted to complain because we did not allow enough time at the scene for them to visit for their loved ones. Now, you know how we could avoid all this is if we had a proper viewing room, and we did it in an environment where we were more supportive of the family. But yet I can't get any of these elected officials to look at it from that standpoint. Now, here's a newsflash. I know this is going to blow your mind. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. Was the coroner's office affected by COVID? Because I'm told the answer is no.
So, okay, that's the interesting thing, because obviously, so real quick, I want to say this, and then I'm going to answer your question. You and I have been kind of like circling each other for about a couple of years now.
Yes.
It's been a while. And you're somebody that I've been watching.
Since Richwine had his tantrum at a county council meeting, that's how long you and I've been engaged.
Okay, yeah, basically that long, and I recall that, and I thought it was bizarre, and so you and I've kind of been in the same sphere, and so there's a lot going on in Madison County, and there's a lot that you've got your finger on, and you've been throwing at them, but it's the coroner's office, which is kind of at the heart and soul of what you're doing, because you know you care, and it's very important. And I remember, you know, I know it seems like it's been so long ago since the horrible C word COVID was around and killing everybody and going crazy wherever you want to fall within all of that belief and whatnot. That might be for another show, but I would have thought immediately that the people that COVID would have touched would have been the hospitals, first responders, firefighters, paramedics, police officers. You know, when you have death, you know, to me, I'm a former law enforcement officer, so I'm a little bit more immersed in this than some. But I would have figured that the coroner's office, at least in some capacity, would have been fairly busy through that point, would have been touched by this, and would have been first in line for any kind of assistance, any kind of extra special, like, we're going to be throwing you extra, I was going to say extra bodies. I guess that's probably a bad pun. Extra hands, extra help, and all of that. And when I found out here just recently that you're saying you guys received
Zero.
dollars, zero,
Zero.
folks, zero in
Zero.
Madison County.
Yes.
That is, like, I'll be honest, it makes me want to cuss. I'm sure I have cussed about it. It's ridiculous. It's completely asinine, and there is a massive breakdown. Now, let me ask you this just real quick. It's your fault, right, that you didn't receive that money?
Well, originally, we were told in 2021 when we took office, it was the Dunahay's fault because they didn't apply for it in 2020. But the more I peel back these layers, I don't think the Dunahays had anything to do with this, because I saw Danielle get up there in February of 2020. She asked for $50,000 more, and it took them about 20 seconds to knock her from that stand. They didn't listen to anything she had to say, and she was told no. And to her benefit, she was outnumbered. I mean, you got 7 of them staring at you. I mean, I've been up there. I mean, to the point where I'm gavelled to death and sent to my seat by a sheriff.
And real quick, so folks know, because we've got a lot of people that might be watching for the first time or people that don't know, that's the administration in the coroner's office before you and Dr. Abbott before. So, I was being facetious when I was saying it was your fault. Obviously, it's the county councils, it's the county commissioners, it's this cabal of elected officials in Madison County that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, apparently, when it comes to what the coroner's office actually does. I was reading a letter to the editor from here just recently, and I like that what they do is in the very first line of the thing, it says, the coroner's office is primarily an administrative office.
Yes.
Obviously, we're in the state of Indiana. You guys are not medical examiners. You're not doing like New York or LA, where they're actually doing the autopsies. You're working with the doctors, and you're the go-between with the police and the medical team and the families and all of this. But that kind of thinking is asinine. It just, everything they did, all these steps they did, in my opinion, was to belittle you guys and to knock you down. Why?
Well, we weren't the pick. Russ Willis wanted a 20-year-old. To me, and I don't mean this insulting to any 20-year-old out there. I got a 20-year-old. She's still a child. And I could never imagine what she could have gone through to get through what we went through. We were shuffling bodies. We had all these moving parts. It was overwhelming. You've got 2 highly educated people trying to move everybody around to make sure everybody's housed, everybody's where they're supposed to be. I had to leave bodies out on tables at room temperature because I had no place to store them because we had no refrigeration. And until I was banging my head against the wall, they brought in a semi-trailer. So now we're putting people in the back of a semi-trailer. What's even more interesting is that even in the inclement weather, we didn't have anybody shovel that area for us. So we're trying to push these scales around to get the bodies up in that semi-trailer. We have to climb up in this semi-trailer to move bodies around. We've got 8 to 10 bodies, and all I hear, and Diana Likens, that one probably irks me the most, because she feels in some way that we have broken our relationship with the hospitals. We haven't broken our relationships with the hospitals. You use their morgues for free. This is a county responsibility. It is not theirs. All that waste, it costs money. All those gloves, it costs money. But on top of that, we only have about 4.5 coolers in this county. Please tell me how I'm supposed to pick and choose that your loved one is more important than the other person's loved one. We have to have a place. My understanding right now, we've got like 5 or 6 bodies in the cooler right now. I don't even have enough morgue space. Now, Russ Willis took it upon himself to write a letter, and he stated that Ben Gale gave him the authorization to write this and to investigate this. And he went around to find out how many coolers or refrigerations we have in this county, including the funeral homes. And he feels that our overflow should be housed in the funeral homes. Well, a lot of these funeral homes don't have refrigeration. But here's a newsflash. If we're busy in the coroner's office, don't you think that funeral homes are busy? On top of it, this is their business. How does it become local business funeral homes' responsibility to house our bodies? Now, on top of this, I also want to know how many officers he's going to give me to secure these bodies, because they're a chain of custody.
Yes.
So you're asking a coroner to put her office or his office all over the county. Is that what you're asking me to do, and secure bodies everywhere? Because I'll tell you, when I went and picked up Noah Shanavez, the one thing the Indiana State Police made very clear to me, crystal clear, Katherine, that body is to never be out of your sight. And it better be under lock and key, and nobody better have access to that body except for you. Do we make ourselves clear? And so here, I'm bringing
back up.
home.
Let me, I don't mean to interrupt you, just real quick. I just want to back up here for a second, because I want to say a couple things that set people up, because people might not know this. You don't think about this. In my father passed away in 2016 from cancer. And he had been battling cancer for about 10 months at the time. Other than the cancer, was a relatively healthy 56-year-old male, other than the cancer. Because he had been under a doctor's care and had cancer, his death was an unattended death. No one was around. We did not have to deal with the coroner's office. Most people don't really know, when you deal with the coroner's office, when you don't deal with the coroner's office. And so there's a little bit of confusion, and this is a little touchy subject for people. And I want to give everybody a little bit of a trigger warning or whatever, but I just want to make sure, this is a very important subject and a very important topic, because one thing I can guarantee you, you might be a Democrat, you might be a Republican, we might hate each other, but we're all going to die. So
everybody gets a turn.
That's right. So everybody gets a turn. And so this is an important topic. And some of us will deal with the coroner, some of us won't. Just depends on how that happens. But one of the things that's very important is, if you're just a normal natural death, man, chances are you're going to be all right. But there are unfortunate situations out there where there is violence, where there are crimes. And when there is a crime, this is very unpleasant for people to hear this, but the loved one at that moment, to you is a loved one, but to the police and to the investigation is evidence. So it's not like that body can just go and be, in an unlocked part of the hospital. That's what she's talking about currently. It's not like it just gets to ride over to the mortuary and hang out until you do the service. It is evidence until it's released and it, the body is then released. So when there are certain mechanisms in place that people like Russ Willis and these part-time councilmen and part-time councilwomen just have no clue on. And the young man that you were speaking of a moment ago is the just unfortunate situation. He was the Elwood police officer who was killed in the line of duty back last year in Elwood. So that's who you were talking about. And so you were mentioning his name, but I don't know if everyone was familiar. So I just wanted to start there. So you were involved with that investigation when he made a traffic stop, and unfortunately, the person he pulled over decided to take his life. He was shot and killed in his vehicle, and you guys were part of the investigation. And you, as in a lot of law enforcement deaths, law enforcement take that really personal. And you were told by these state troopers, under no circumstances do you let this young man, our fellow officer, out of your sight. And what did you do in that circumstance?
Well, and that's the whole reason when you watch that, the whole way home, my SUV is directly in front of that hearse at all times. Now, I was supposed to be in the back, but we didn't want to break up the family from following, and that would have done that. So we compromised, but he was to be in my rearview mirror at all times. And so and I got to give it to APD. APD did a phenomenal job to assist me. I had reached out to another agency that was unwilling, but APD, Chief Lee, Norm Rayford, those guys totally stepped up and brought home Noah with me. And I can't thank Tyler and Mark enough for being with me there. So we come home, and I'm being asked by Sheriff Mellinger, you going to take him to the hospital? Because that's where you need to put him in the morgue. I said, we don't have a key there. We don't have cameras there. Our morgue is in the pole barn. So I had, and it must have been, it must have been 90 some degrees that day, and with all the humidity. So when we pull in this pole barn, there's no ventilation, but we shut the doors so that when we pull this body out, that the family can have their privacy. We're on gravel flooring, and it's hot. The honor guard's sweating. We're sweating. They're sweating. Everybody's sweating. I mean, I'm worried they're going to pass out. Well, we have no way to roll from the hearse over to the cooler. So every one of Noah's teammates gathered together and carried his body over to the cooler and placed him in a respectful manner inside that cooler. And you want to talk about how heartbreaking this is to watch. Now, Did any of my commissioners show up? Did any of my councilmen show up? Finally, Fred Reese came over when we were moving over to the hospital for the autopsy because I begged Fred, but no one showed up. And the first person who probably should have banged on each one of those doors should have been Sheriff Mellinger.
Absolutely.
And so, I hate to even bring up, because this was such a traumatic situation for our county, but what is it going to take? Is it going to take one of their family members to be in this position before we ever think that our deceased loved ones? And what really makes me mad is when I watch elections and I see these people trip over themselves and fumble over themselves, and they want your vote. But you know what? Now that you're deceased, your vote's no good. And that office doesn't make us money, so you don't get any money. And I want to go back to a comment that Sean Smith had put up. We had put together, with a lot of help from Sean Smith, who's a very bright man, and we put paperwork together and we submitted for ARPA to get vehicles to transport people, because right now we're transporting them in an ambulance. That's all we've got.
God.
And so we asked for transportation. We went over to Hamilton County and we looked and everything. Well, and let me tell you something. Attention to detail between Sean, myself, and Dr. Abbott is pretty spot on. And I got to give credit to Sean's wife, Laureen. We submit that not once, but twice. And both times we're turned down. But let me tell you the exciting part. The exciting part is although we're turned down for vehicles when we could save the county a ton of money over 10 years, right? And this would be paid from grant money, so it would cost the taxpayers no money at all, right? The exciting part is they awarded the health department $300,000 towards building a pole barn to house their RV. But our transportation of these deceased loved ones just fall on deaf ears. And the reason why is because, and I love Fred Reese, and I've spoken to Fred Reese, so anybody who's out there who thinks that Fred Reese is not aware of what I'm about ready to say, he is fully aware. He is a former councilman. And Fred Reese said, in December, at the end of December 2020, Russ Willis called each and every county councilman and said, do not give that coroner's office a penny. So with that being known, we were doomed from the beginning. Now, what Republican chair goes against their own Republican Party? It just bores me. And why Kyle Hupfer would even stand for this in his own county?
That's what I don't understand.
But
yeah,
it's from Kyle that says, everything I've learned from this election for 2020 is through your text. And you're the head of the GOP and you don't even know what's going on in your backyard? What is wrong with people? Why do we keep these people in these seats?
That's the thing. So a couple of other things. Russ Willis is, of course, we flashed it up there. He's the chair, the party head of the Republican Party in Madison County, and he's the Just everyone that's watched this show for so long knows that I have such a disdain for party chairmen. It doesn't matter if we're talking Democrat party chair. It doesn't matter if we're talking Republican party chair. It's really bad. I specifically have an issue with the Republican party chairs because, for such a long time, I considered myself a Republican, and I thought this is not how it's supposed to be. But I don't know, because it seems like they're so concerned with what's going on even in the Democrat Party anymore. It's like I don't even know that you can fully call these people actual Republicans. Someone, Amy Reese has said, Renee has said, Russ is a rhino. Absolutely. And it just seems like it's par for the course. It doesn't matter if you're talking about Delaware County, or you're talking about Randolph County, or you're talking about Henry County, or you're talking about Madison County. It's the same thing. So there's so much, and there's so many questions.
Let's talk about the caucus. Let's focus on the caucus.
Absolutely.
So I texted with Russ earlier today because I've talked to precinct committeemen throughout the week. Several have not even received a caucus notification. Now, Russ claims that he mailed them, and the people who have received them, it says from South Dakota. So they've received them he's mailed them from South Dakota. So, when one of them called and said, hey, I haven't gotten my letter, he says, well, other people have. I've mailed them from South Dakota. U.S. Postal Service must be not working. It's kind of amazing because you're going to hear in the phone call how he blames the U.S. Postal Service for everything. So I'm sure any caucus member who didn't receive one, it's the U.S. Postal Services, and he did not try to manipulate it at all. But that's neither here nor there. Now, when we talk about the caucus, because everybody hasn't been notified, I received finally a precinct committeeman list. What was amazing to me is that Adam Matson, who's running, sent out letters with the same exact labels that Russ had, that he sent for people for the caucus. Same exact font, same exact size, same exact spacing. So those come in the mail. Somebody brings me the letter. And it says on there that Adam is a precinct committeeman. I'm very amused by this. So I start running through my sheet. I can't find anywhere on my active sheet that Adam is listed as a precinct committeeman. So I inquired yesterday with Russ about this, and he said, well, that's a secretarial job, and that we get to that when we get to that. Well, there's 7 other seats open. So I then text Russ and I say, hey, Russ, well, then I want to volunteer, and can I have one of those other seats too? And he says, I've filled all 7 of those within the last few months. I just haven't had time to update the sheet. So now you're giving me a sheet that's really not up to date. How is that even fair? So as we move forward with this precinct committeeman sheet that I'm in awe over, that's not complete, come to find out, Adam Matson's voting history and Chris Burris's voting history have always been Democrat until recently. Now in 2022, Russ had to sign off on Chris Burris in order for him to run as a Republican candidate. In 2022, because I had only voted once, he challenged me and wouldn't let me run as a state delegate. Now, in that 2022 race, he signed off on 6 people that were Democrats to run as Republicans. One was up in Alexandria, who'd been a Democrat for 40 years, never ever pulled a Republican ticket, and he signed off. But yet he challenged me as a state delegate that I couldn't run. I wasn't even running for a big position, just a state delegate. But no, he wouldn't have it. So as we fast forward, it's amazing to me that are we a true Republican Party here in Madison County? We've got, if we go through the list that have been Democrats at one point and have moved over to Republican. So, and that's the other thing that's been being brought to me too. What is a Republican in good standing? There's a code in the Republican political book that says once we get past the primary and move into the general, that you cannot promote a Democrat candidate in the general election. Yet, if you go to Chris Burris's Facebook page, you go to Adam Matson's Facebook page, in 2020, for the general election, both of them proudly promoted the Democrat candidate. Now, on top of this, there was a large high-profile funeral in 2020. And Russ was at that funeral. And he was running around telling people to vote for the Nunes after we had won. And the Republican candidates who were there said, you better stop doing that because you're supposed to be the Republican chair. So, he has done everything in his power to block me. But should they really be running if they're not in good standing? Why is it that every time I need something or want to do something, there's a technicality? Well, here's a technicality, Russ. your boys, and the one that you're really backing. And you know what's even more interesting? If you look at Adam Matson's Facebook page,
right?
There's a firefighter nationally he's supporting as a Democrat. So what are we doing here, Russ? Are we Republicans? Are we Democrats? Are we Republicans? Are we rhinos? Call it whatever you want. But we've got a Republican chair that doesn't know his colors. Is he red or is he blue? We learn it in preschool. So do what you think, but that's what we're running up against. Technically, right. One of them should be running.
Yeah. So there's been a couple questions that have come in, and Yoko do a commenter here normally throughout most of our shows says, I've seen caucuses overturned by state party because the chair didn't equally provide access to precinct lists. So that's definitely something.
Let me address that one. Mm-hmm. Kyle Hupfer is homegrown in Madison County.
Yeah.
Kyle Hupfer owes all his loyalty to Russ Willis. He believes because of Russ Willis, he's in the position he is. So that will never take place in Madison County. Kyle Hupfer, even though he's an attorney, he is not going to do the right thing in this. Period.
Now, it's interesting that he just, today resigned, or yesterday rather.
He didn't resign. Let's clarify that. He didn't resign. He stated he was he's stating his resignation. He's stating his resignation, but he's going to stay in his position until this person is found, and then he will resign. He's just letting everyone know he's going to hand in his resignation. See how this works?
Yeah.
All right. Read those words really close. What a perfect attorney right there. Is he not the perfect attorney?
Right. So we've got a question here that says, is it true that that the grants that were received have to be used for what they were applied for? I would always have thought so. So that is why they couldn't be used for the coroner's office. That's what Shane Matt said.
In 2020, the COVID CARES Act money was wide open. Okay. And you could use it for various things if it affected your office. So Howard County, Kokomo, right next to us, built a $400,000 pole barn for their morgue. So the money was there. We could have used it. There's no question of that. And here's the thing. The ARPA fund, they awarded the health department $300,000 to build a pole barn for an RV. You think that could be used for dead people? I mean, let's just see. RV housing, a morgue to house the bodies. It's really come off of COVID. I think it would qualify. So yes, in fact, you do have to use COVID money, or you do have to use grant money for what it's entitled to. Absolutely. But there are plenty of other counties that have built morgues, bought vehicles, and so forth in order to use that money. So yes, your question's correct, but it could have been used for us. It still can be used for us.
Sure, absolutely.
And we're still
We've got another question here from Dan who says, can she address the condition of the property in Lapel? No more. I don't know what that means. Are you?
I don't know the condition property in Lapel. I own 2 commercial buildings. One's a dental office and one's a doctor's office, and they are in mint condition. So I'm not sure what that means.
Mint condition.
Mint
Well,
condition. Yes, our one building was just remodeled last year, and the other one we just remodeled it 9 years ago. So there's no problem. So I don't know. And then, I have a big barn there in Lapel, and we just put all new metal siding up on it. It's beautiful now. If that's what, but I don't know. If they want to clarify that, I'm happy to answer it.
right. So can you talk, because I've got a couple other questions. We've got a couple other start questions I'm going to get back to here in a minute. I think he said where without, I mean, obviously it's public knowledge and people can get all that information. I guess without doxing yourself to the exact location, I guess the question is, where is your residence? Like, what city would you?
Oh, yes, I knew this would come up, and this would come up. So let's see. I own a home on 825 and 30 acres. I just bought last week another house in Lapel at 316 John Street. I own 303 John Street home. And I currently reside because I've decided to rent all those places out, hoping that I win coroner. And I've moved to the center of Anderson to be proactive as a coroner. And I live in Anderson now. But if somebody would like to message me, would like my personal address, I'm happy to give it to you.
Okay, so
he's actually out on the front porch, so he'll welcome anybody who wants to come over for a cocktail.
So that is why, now that's a good setup, because I didn't know that was going to come in.
Oh, and I own a home in Hamilton County too.
Oh, okay. So so I imagine that's what, all right, so that's what we're getting at.
But let me just explain for everybody. I have an LLC called Callahan Real Estate. I also have an LLC called Wright Family Practice, both of which have been filled out on the CAN 12 form and submitted and notarized and given to Russ prior to the caucus. So please, I want everybody to know, come on over and welcome.
You do that? We ran into some candidates here recently that didn't fill out CAN 12s. It was amazing. I can't believe you filled out your CAN 12. Yeah. Holy shit. That's amazing. So, okay, let me ask you this here briefly. Well, I guess this person says, is it claiming your boyfriend's house in Anderson? I guess if that's where you live.
I mean, do people not live with significant others?
Are you claiming? Okay, this is a job related question, but then I want to get back to the address change, because that recently came up here when you were turning in your paperwork, and that's a good segue to that. But this is a good coroner related question. How many autopsies are performed in a 1 year there in Madison County, and what is charged for those generally? So
the charge for autopsies, the last I looked, they were around 2,000. And then you're going to have your toxicology. Now, in the toxicology is a few $100s. If it's an overdose or suspected overdose, there's a grant, and you mark the box, and that you don't have to pay for the toxicology. But if it's not a suspected overdose or anything, then you would have to. The county would have to pay for that. And so it does get. But here's what people don't understand. So back in the Dennehy administration, things were not quite as busy as they are today, because they didn't really live through COVID as much as we did. They thought they were going to get hit a lot harder. They didn't. The deaths really didn't start rolling until about 2021. So with all that being said, is when the Dennehys were in office, they were roughly about 170 cases, right, altogether. And so when you
year,
can you hear me?
No, you're saying 170.
About 170. And then, a year. And I'm I can't even remember the number of autopsies they were doing, but when you go all the way across, they were at about 41% of doing autopsies based on the number of cases they had. Well, then fast forward to 2021, Abbott and I take over, and we go to about 450, 500 cases. Well, when you go up with that many cases, you're going to have more autopsies. With more autopsies, it's going to be more expensive, absolutely, because we're doing more. But when you put our line item all the way out, we were only at like 23, 24% compared to the cases we were doing. So, but people aren't looking at that big picture. They're just looking at the bottom number. Well, you can't do that. You've got to work the whole equation the whole way out. So we were actually saving the county money in the long run. I don't have control over how many people die in our county, but everybody knows over here in Madison County, the drug rate's gone up. People have heard me preach in front of the county council over and over. If I do not follow the national standard, and the national standard says we should be doing autopsies on every single overdose. Now that's a little bit of overkill. So we had a protocol of which we went through of who would get autopsies and who wouldn't, but it's still a fair amount of cases like with overdoses. If I don't have those autopsies for those overdoses, the drug dealer can come in and say, no, they had diabetes. That's what they died from. Nope, they had congestive heart failure. That's what they died of. Nope, they just had a heart attack. They just had a stroke. Yeah, they did because you gave them too much cocaine or whatnot. Absolutely. So I have to do the autopsy to practice defensive medicine to prove that this body was a perfectly healthy body and it died from the drugs. It did not die from a pulmonary embolism. It did not die from congestive heart failure. Didn't die from kidney failure. And that's the whole, or from sepsis. It died because you sold this person too many drugs. If we want to clean up Madison County, I've got to do those autopsies in order for the prosecutors to prosecute the drug dealers, or they're going to get off on a technicality. Let me guarantee you that. So, when we're sitting here and we're talking about, people want to talk about how much, we're spending in autopsies. If you do the percentage out, we actually save the county a lot of money. And, we've gone, when in 2020, we were like the 9th most dangerous counties out of 92. In 2022, when I was working with a grant, we were still 9th. Today, we're number 6. We're doing a great job. And so that's kind of the whole situation that's going on there. Who gets that $2,000 for autopsies? So you don't find that a coroner is generally a forensic pathologist. A forensic pathologist has to do that. So that is a whole different doctor who gets that money, and it's a whole different area that gets that money. And everybody keeps banging in on this administration that we were the most expensive coroner's office. Well, we didn't even have a desk, so we had to start initially from scratch. But that's really neither here nor there. Us being the most expensive coroner's office is because we want our streets to be cleaner. We want to give cause of death. Now, was that last question somebody said, did we do a hospice patient autopsy?
No, that the person just said, and I want to clarify that because my father did. The person I think said all deaths that didn't take place in hospital needs autopsy, and that's not exactly true. She can talk about that. When my father passed, he passed at home, but and he didn't require. We didn't have an autopsy performed on him because he had cancer. So
right.
It wasn't
and there were 1 or 2 times that we did do an autopsy on hospice patients. Because when we went to look at the body, there was either an ampule in their mouth or something like that. So we had to do that to make sure that even though they were a hospice patient, we knew they were going to terminally die, that no criminal act took place. It does happen.
Yeah,
it does happen. I mean, there are weird circumstances that we work with detectives and we have to make some decisions like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of pieces spinning. But here's the one thing I know. Whoever wins this caucus, you're never going to go back to the way it was.
Right.
You're just not. I know there's been a lot of talk about, hey, we'll go back to using the hospitals. You're not going to the hospitals. You have too many bodies going on. There's too many cases, too many active cases going on. This place is busy. It's overwhelmingly busy. I mean, we just had a 3-month-old 2 weeks ago or last week. I mean, we have lots of children's death. It's mandatory on anybody under the age of 3 that we perform an autopsy on them.
Okay.
So there are certain rules. So say that a single person is in a car accident. A single person accident, that's an automatic autopsy. We don't have a choice over that.
Sure.
So there's a lot of things. And I will tell you, I will give you a big plug. Gavin Green out there in Delaware County, the coroner, he is absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
phenomenal, and he's wonderful. And he too has had his own struggles with pay,
Yes.
and I've worked with him. I've given him my information, and he has shared with me, and he's been able to take our information with his information and get the raises done over there for the coroner's office. He's done a phenomenal job. So there's just
that's amazing. And because I'll tell you, I have some complaints. I definitely have some complaints with the Delaware County Council. We go back and forth. They are nothing like, at one point they were, but they are not currently like yours. I mean, it's nothing. You guys are dealing with something that's just totally out of line. But that's interesting, and it's just things that people don't understand. Henry County a couple years ago really was in a bad situation, and they were having they were out of money for like everything by like March. Yep. And it was like, what do you do if, God forbid, you have a mass shooting, or you've got some kind of strange, you get a serial poisoner, you never know what's going to happen. You have no way of predicting what tomorrow is going to bring.
And because of these situations, there is an Indiana code. That Indiana code says whatever we need for autopsies, our council has to provide for us. Our county has got to provide for us. What this council does not understand, I cannot make up a cause of death. If I do not have a legitimate cause of death, I have to order an autopsy. You are asking me to get a crystal ball out, go to a scene and say, oh, this person died of this. I can't do that. If I do that, and Alfie McGinty from Marion County came here and stood with us for over 90 minutes in front of this council. If I do that, we will get sued. And she said she's been sued before. She says, you will get sued at some point if you continue this practice. They've got to have the money to do their job. Here's my thing. These county councilmen, Rick Gardner, Commissioner Richwine, they want to make our administration just look so horrible. Okay. They want to blame all this stuff on OSHA, on our administration. No. For 18 months, I stood in front of that council, meeting after meeting, saying, I need running water. I need PPE. I need masks. I need this. And you know what? They would tell us, no. Now I said, okay, I gave you 18 months. And Officer Chenevez, may he rest in peace, was the breaking point for me. So I turned him into OSHA. Now, if I was such a crazy woman, do you really think OSHA's going to hit him with a $22,000 fine? No. And it wasn't. Yeah. And then they're all upset. Well, the coroner's office isn't responding. Why would you respond? Commissioner Richwine and Likens entered into that contract when they were told that we are a constitutional office. It's our equipment. So if he's going to do that, he has to rent it to us. Well, he never asked for our input. He never asked for anything. He entered into this contract. That's his pole barn. That's his building. He's the one that needs to fix all of that. He's the one that needs to put out the running water. Just like when they brought in the semi-trailer and said, well, it's free from the state, you guys can use it. And we're saying, hey, that's diesel. Don't bring it in here because it's going to be too expensive. We need an electric one, right? So I don't know. They were paying overtime for somebody over at transportation to come and fuel it on the weekends. And then they wouldn't pay us overtime to work if we had death calls. And then they were filling all this. Well, the bill ran up to over $3,000 and wanted us to pay for it. We're like, we don't even have money for our own stuff. How are we going to pay this $3,000 bill? So what they did was Richwine just went into our money, got with Gardner, got with Ben Gale, took the money out of our line item and just paid his bill. And it left us even in a more negative. Then they turned around and came up with an ordinance that says if you overspend on your line item, we're going to charge you with a misdemeanor. Well, here's a newsflash. Last Tuesday at the meeting, you had a couple administrators in there who overspent on their line items. I do hope that Ted Nolting is going to be filing with the prosecutor's office because we want to even this playing field. Right. Bella Bastide wants to go and write all this crazy stuff in the Herald Bulletin and support Ben Gale and Anthony Emery, which surprises me because he's a state trooper. Why he doesn't get on board with the coroner's office. He wants to support Rob Steele and Richwine and Russ, and he wants to be the be-all, king-all, right? They want to talk about Abbott hasn't paid bills in 8 months and he's like, $50,000, $60,000 behind. Okay. the previous administration was behind from 2017 to 2003 years, and they were over $100,000 in debt. And then Ben Gale and Rick Gardner sent us an email in December of 2020 saying, this demands a full investigation. We're going to look into this. Well, where's that investigation at? So
Right.
you guys, I'm all about it. Should he have paid his bills? Absolutely. I'm not saying he shouldn't have. You just got to make sure when you do your investigation, they better even the playing field. But here's in defense of both parties, the Democrat Party for the Dunahays and Nunes, and for the Republican Party of Abbott. They asked for the money. You denied it. So really, the only people who should be charged is this county council and the commissioners. That's how I feel about that.
Absolutely.
The Dunahays did their job to the best of the ability with the means they gave them. And that's the same thing we did. So quit banging on all this and cough up the money. What's more interesting is that, how long was it that Abbott had resigned? The 31st. He resigned on the 31st. And on the 10th, there was a county council meeting. Chief Deputy Burris goes up there and he needs $100,000. They pass that like in 90 seconds. And then they go on to say, how much more are you going to need to get to the end of the year? It's like, maybe 60, 80,000. And then I think it might have been Bethany who says, well, shouldn't we go through these line items to see what they want, what we're using this money for? Well, they didn't want Chris to go on to that because Chris is going to say, well, it's for autopsies and transportation. So it's not like money was being spent, frivolously or on items that weren't. These were professional services that had to be done. It's Indiana code. And so now you guys give that, and then Ben Gale goes, no, we don't need to talk about that because we'll give that money next month to that corner to get him through the end of the year. Well, the budget we put in for 2 years was about $400,000. When this is all said and done by the end of December, they're going to be right about that $400,000 because our budget was a little over $200,000. You just gave $100,000, that's $300,000. And then if you're looking at 60 to 80 to $100,000, you're going to be close to that $400,000 mark. So it doesn't look like we were really enhancing that budget by too much or too crazy of a number. We were trying to be over, cost effective. But let's not talk about the sheriff of the previous sheriff, not Beeman, because he's done a phenomenal job.
Sure.
Who had to return money because, and I think it was like $300,000 out of his budget because he didn't need it. So do we overinflate our budgets and then we just return what we don't need? I mean, I've been amazed at Ben Gale has just banged on this whole county in 2022. There'll be no raises. Our county can't afford raises. We had to make the decision whether to keep the utilities on or to give raises. So we decided we're not going to give any raises. But every month I go into those county council meetings and the county council says, well, if you can find money on other areas of your line items and you can make that into your raises, we'll give it. And almost every department has gotten raises since we started 2023. Do these people listen to themselves?
Good grief. So,
I'm changing my name from Dr. Katherine Callahan to Dr. Obvious.
Let me ask you this. So, because we could keep talking from now literally through next week and still not cover everything that we need to talk about. And I'm not anywhere close to done. We can talk. I want to make sure we are 100%. We can definitely talk as long as you want to go. We can go as long as they want to listen. So you let me know when you're good, because we can keep going. I have no issue with that.
Well, and we want the viewers to have their answers as well. Shelley Harvey said some have gotten huge raises. She is right. I can't think of all of those this evening. But right now what's on the table is Russ Willis wants like a $20,000 raise for weights and measures. Right. And I don't know if Sean's on here, he might be able to tell us what the current salary of his is right now. And I don't know, it's like a crazy increase, like the percentage, like a 40% increase. Well, who gets that? You and I work at a hospital, it's going to be 3 to 5% a year. Right. Well, when you go over and you look at Hamilton County, their weights and measures guys only make like $25,000 and they're part-time. That person's part-time. He's full-time. I mean,
oh, wow.
Are we? And this is what's so crazy. He's probably going to get it because right now he still holds 4 of the seats on the county council. So, I mean, that's why he's got to get it pushed through this year, because if we have a change, he's not going to get it. But I don't really understand why he needs it, because on Madison County accountability page, they show where he's on the running election board meetings. So isn't he supposed to be on the clock for weights and measures? If he's got that much free time, maybe he should be at a part-time status, and he really is making enough money, because it's like 40,000 that he's making. So I don't know. I mean, there's lots that I could talk about, not just with the coroner's office. It's important. If you people know precinct committeemen, I would encourage you to call them and talk to them about who's going to be the next coroner. If, people have said to me, you got to quit saying, take the politics out of it and vote for the most qualified candidate.
Absolutely.
And they're like, but it's all political, Catherine. Like, you don't understand politics. It's all politics. Well, I hate to tell everybody in America this, but here's a newsflash. We are in this situation because everything's political.
Yeah, right.
We got to do the right thing.
Right.
There is nobody in this caucus that holds a doctorate's degree. There's no one in this that is an entrepreneur who owns her own practice. And here's the thing. In my practice, I have over 9,000 patients. I am independent. People do not come to us because we're not doing a good job. They come to us because I'm as passionate for my patients as I am for a deceased loved one.
Sure.
When that insurance company tells me, no, they can't have that MRI, I'm on that phone with that insurance company and we're going round and round. They're getting that MRI.
Right.
And that's the whole thing, is that if people can really step back and say, she really is not trying to harm anybody. All she's trying to do is get a fair shake. All she's trying to say is, the dead people cannot speak for themselves. She's a nurse. Nurses are patient advocates. They are advocates for the families. I am speaking for the people who cannot speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
So this caucus is going to show this county exactly what the Republican Party is made of. Are they going to bring in one of the two males who have been strong Democrats, who have professed their loyalty to the Democrat Party for coronership, or is this caucus going to say, we are true Republicans tonight and we are going to vote in a Republican? And this time, we are not going to eat our own.
Let's talk about that just for a second, if we could, because so as of right now, what we're aware of is you are up in this caucus, and for everyone that's watching that don't know, what happens here is on Monday night at 6 o'clock, well, Russ is doing it, so I don't really know what happens. In my opinion, I think you guys will go in and you guys will all be given the floor to speak, I would assume.
For 3 minutes.
And for three, okay, so you can all speak for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Whatever
you
you
can
get out in 3 minutes.
You can have somebody introduce you for 2 minutes, and I'm not clear if that 2 minutes eats up your 3 minutes, and then you only get one. But you can have somebody come introduce you. Yeah, you can have somebody come introduce you, but you have 3 minutes to state your case. This is what's more interesting. Chris. When you vote, do you just go the day of election and just pick your candidates? Because the precinct committee men don't even know who's running. So how can they even do their homework?
This is why this is such a bullshit process. This whole thing, this whole idea of the caucus, the political caucus, is nonsense. We get this thing where these guys and gals that are the party chairman and vice chairs feel like they are the gods of the party or the kings of the party. I tell you, they might be the king, but it is of shit mountain, and they're king turd. That is 110% correct, because they're nobodies, but they feel like they've got this power, and it's nonsense.
You want to see how many are appointed? How many of our elected officials in this county are appointed and their family members? Now, here's the thing. Is it really that hard to fill out 2 forms for election for our elected officials? You're going up there to put in your candidacy for one thing. Why don't you put in the other form for you to be your precinct in your area? What I've noticed at looking at this caucus sheet, Dan, you want to know about my address? Well, why don't you go ask all these elected officials who are appointed in precincts in which they don't live in? Why don't you go ask every one of them? Because they're appointed to those positions. So if we're going to start calling things out, and you think at the age of 51, I'm not allowed to live with somebody, or I'm not allowed to go on with my life, well, let's just have this conversation, Dan. So call out Anthony Emery, call Ben Gale, call these people, ask them, hey, why aren't you elected in the area in which you reside. Why did Russ appoint you? I'd just like to know, inquiring minds.
I mean, that is it is a really, really interesting question. I remember standing outside of the Delaware County Democratic headquarters about 3 years ago when they were having a caucus, and there were literally people dropping people off that looked like they had just paid them $20 down the road and said, "Hey, show up down here." People were showing up. They'd never even seen this place before. And they've been like, is this the Democrat headquarters? They're getting out. They were doing it was insane what was going on. And they go in the front door. They do their thing. They go out the back door. They're never seen again. Nobody ever knows who they are. It's this nonsense game that they play. They always hold so many back that no matter what happens, no matter how many precinct committeemen run, they always have enough that they can appoint who they need to so they can control the outcome of these caucuses and whatnot. So, but you had so in this caucus, you're going to give your 3 minutes. There's 2 other people that's going as well. You got 3 opponents, right?
Right. Chris Burris, who's the acting chief deputy right now, or acting coroner, because he's chief deputy. And then you've got Adam Madsen, who is a firefighter medic, and he's been the one that's been able to get to all the committeemen. He's the pick. He's the golden child right now of Russ's.
Okay. And so he's the pick.
Yeah, he's the pick.
Okay. And
on top of that, they're going to bring the Dunahee administration back.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's the word on the street. And in some events, I think you're going to have to, because we don't have enough coroners. We're so busy now.
Right.
I mean, unless he's going to train some people, I don't know. Well, it's going to be interesting.
I want
to look if you're a Republican coroner and all of a sudden you're bringing all these Democrats back.
Right. That's just par for the course. Hey, we're such a Republican state that the Republicans say, hey, we've got to do some Democrat things, or we're just not going to have Democrats, because it is what it is. They're all doing it. It's weird. But I want to talk about this for a second, because I got something wrong on your thing. Up here, this thing says, I wrongly posted you as the chief deputy coroner from January 1st, 2021 to December 2nd, 2022. And you told me, no, that's not right, that you were just a deputy coroner, but that you were elevated to the chief deputy role because the chief deputy stepped down. He stepped down for
he states in his caucus letter, for professional reasons.
Well, who was it that stepped down?
So it was Adam Madsen who stepped down from that position.
So, okay, so just so the listeners are understanding, Adam Madsen was the chief deputy prosecutor, or chief deputy coroner, and he stepped down, and then you became the chief deputy, and now he wants to be the chief deputy again.
Yes, and what's amazing to me is that when he stepped down,
the elected official, I mean, I guess.
When he stepped down, he was in the middle of his on-call shift. He was actively on the clock. He did not resign to the coroner's office. He took his things up and resigned to the commissioners. Well, we had no idea. Then dispatch is calling, trying to find a coroner. We can't find one. We end up dispatching another coroner. And that coroner was finally able to get a hold of him. And he says, well, I quit. And this is a firefighter medic. So he clearly knows the importance. And let me be clear to everybody. I was his subordinate at that point. I wasn't over him. I wasn't in charge of him. He was the chief deputy. Is that really what you say you quit for professional reasons? A professional quit would have been a 2 weeks notice. It would have been communication with the office. It wouldn't have left all your other coroners abandoned. And then he talks about how ethically correct he is in his letter, how he's going to mend all these relationships, how he's going to do everything in his power, because it's so fragmented. The only fragment that's going on right now is the county council and the commissioners who have dug their feet in, that feel no money should be coming to the coroner's office because we beat out a 20-year-old. Come on. I have been in nursing for almost 30 years. I have been a nurse practitioner for almost, I don't know, 25 years or something. And I've been doctorate prepared for about 7 or 8 years. But I've owned my own practice for 10 years. I mean, somebody's asking, is Adam a medical doctor? No, he is a paramedic firefighter. I think he's been in that for about 17 years. Chris is a deputy coroner. I don't really know what all his formal training. I think he's been an officer at some point. But I get that they have experience in the coroner's office, but there's a whole medical side that should be in this role too. I mean, you raise the bar for your county if you can get a medical person in that role. You really do. And it helps the police and it helps the detectives, and believe me, if you think I'm doing this because, well, I'm going to get this big paycheck, I'm looking at like what, $30,000 a year.
Right.
I can probably make that like in a month in my office, right?
Sure.
Or two. I am doing this because the people in this county deserve better. That's why I'm doing this. Has nothing to do with anything else but that.
Can you? And that's what I like to hear. I mean, the people, being a public servant, because at the end of the day, you are a public servant. Talk a little bit about, if you will, because we've been talking about this caucus process and just I mean, you weren't here. Hold on real quick. I want to answer this before we get there. Diane, in the state of Indiana, you do not have to be a doctor to be a coroner. A coroner is primarily, as the paper said, an administrative, investigative position. You work with the pathologist. You don't. Some states have medical examiners. State of Indiana is not one of those positions.
You just have to be, I believe, over the age of 18. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know that you have to have a high school diploma.
I'm pretty sure it's just like it's a constitutional position. Yeah. So it's like sheriff or you just have to be a voting. You have to be a voting citizen in the area. Yeah. So absolutely. But talk, if you will, about you. Like what I was going to say a moment ago was you almost weren't here. You almost wasn't going to be in the caucus. Talk about that process.
So I was challenged in 2022, and Russ was able to make that challenge stick, and I was not able to run as a state delegate because he wanted to use the 2 primary rule, right? And it's not that I've ever voted Democrat. It's just that I didn't have two voting histories. So, and I want everybody to be clear because people ask this all the time. I grew up very poor. I was raised in a trailer park by a single mom. My dad was an alcoholic and he died when I was 9. My brother is a retired colonel from the Pentagon. He just finished 30 years. My dad was a retired master sergeant. We were raised by a foreign mother, and I put myself through school. I would work 2 or 3 jobs, and I would stair step myself, first bachelor's, then graduate, and then postgraduate, raising my kids. And then I paid for myself to go through my doctorates, paying for all of that along the road, not taking out loans, not doing any of that. So I really never got into the political arena because I was focused on my education and making a better life for myself, my family, and to always care for my mom, where she's never had to worry again since my brother and I graduated from college. So I just want to be clear when this question comes up. But now my girls are off to college. They're both Purdue Honors College. One's an RA on a full ride at Purdue in the Honors College, and the other one's in the Honors College. So now my time can be spent where it needs to. So and I've had some big life changes here in the last 6 to 8 months. So I just moved my daughter to Purdue last week, my other one the week before. So I was able to make some moves and go on with my personal life since Dan's so interested in it. And so, as I did that, I went in and I took off my homestead from my house in LaPel because I'm going to rent it. So it would be illegal for me to have that homestead, not live there, and be renting it. So I took that off, and then I changed my address. So when I did that, and I didn't know, nobody told me up at the elections office that I had to turn my form directly into the party chair's hand. I got it notarized. I took it up to the election office. I sent Russ an email on Thursday saying, hey, I've turned in my thing. I'm going to run for caucus. Can you call me? Can you get me this precinct committeeman sheet? I thought I was in good shape. So come Monday, I don't really hear anything. Well, Friday night, he told me he was in Wyoming. And yes, I did ask him if he was with Steve Sumner's because he was last seen in Montana. I mean, they were good friends. Come on. So anyways, and I just gotten off a show for that. So on Tuesday, I get some calls from some people, and they asked me, hey, and they said, and this guy was a Republican elected official, good friends with the Republican, the Good Old Boys Club here. You know, the Lycans have paid him for all his property. They've given him a lot of money, and now he's on the run. And somebody just discovered that the auditor ended up paying $10,000 for an expert witness in his defense to his attorney. And he's supposed to pay that back after he gets his divorce, but who knows where he's at. I'm not sure why the county's paying for that, but whatever.
God, that's so weird.
Yeah, it's ordered by a
There's
judge.
so much crap, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to have to book you for the next 6 Saturdays.
Right. I'm trying not to be ADD on everybody right now. I just want you all to know that. So anyways, so I get these calls and I'm like, okay, so I end up trying to call Russ, can't get anywhere. So I call Mary up at the elections department. I say, hey, Mary, I said, do I have to put this paper in Russ's hands? And she says, yeah, I think you do. I'm thinking, why didn't anybody tell me this on Thursday? So I said, okay. I said, well, here's the problem. Russ won't return my calls. She said, okay, let me try to call him and let you know. So she called me back probably about 15, 20 minutes later. She says, okay, he's going to take your call. I said, okay. So I call Russ and I say, hey, Russ, I'm going to run for caucus. I said, I need to get you this paper in your hand. He says, I can't take that paper from you. I said, what? He says, I can't take that paper from you. I said, why can't you take this paper from me? He said, because you are not an active registered voter. I said, I'm not? He said, no. He says, you're not active. He says, you're pending because you moved.
We've got the phone call. Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, play the thing, because it's quite interesting how he skirts around from telling me the truth.
We've got the call here, and I just want to give everybody the heads up here real quick as we do sometimes when we do this thing. Obviously, I don't know where you're all watching, but this is the state of Indiana. Indiana is a one-party consent state. This phone call was recorded not by myself. It was recorded by the good doctor here. She recorded her phone call with Russ. She was one party. He was the other. This is legal in the state of Indiana. If you're outside of the state of Indiana, please check with your attorney or your all applicable laws, yada, 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 and other legal jargon. So here we go. We're going to play this phone call between Russ and the doctor here. So give me just 1 second here and we'll get this going. I'm playing it a little bit different than I normally would because we ran into a technical issue, but we adapt and overcome here. So stand by 1 second. Here we go.
Hello?
All right, Russ.
Yeah.
Hello, Russ. This is Katherine Callahan.
Uh-huh.
I'm just calling because I need to get you the paper for the caucus for the coroner.
Okay.
How do I go about doing that?
Well, we can connect somewhere.
Okay. I mean, my office is always open. I mean, it's open to the public, so you're welcome to come here. I'm more than happy to come to the county building. I mean, wherever you want me to bring it to you. I mean, I can do it this morning, which I'm happy to do that. I don't have patients until noon. So if you want me to just do it this morning, if you're in town, I can do that. Just tell me what you want to do, because I know it has to be to you within 72 hours of the caucus.
Right. Yeah. Right now, you cannot file that because your voter registration is pending because you changed your voter registration. So that goes into
I just moved.
It goes into a 7-day pending. So you cannot file the paperwork until that voter registration pending time goes off.
Okay, but it's still in the county, and I moved within the county.
That's irrelevant. Whenever you change your voter registration, you go into a 7-day pending status, and you cannot file to run for any office or anything, just like if it was in the primary.
Okay, so I did that on Wednesday, last Wednesday.
You did it on Thursday. You did it on Thursday.
No, I was at the license branch on Wednesday. Whether that generates to Thursday, I don't know, but I was physically in the license branch on Wednesday.
Okay, yeah, it didn't get into voter registration, overnight. They transfer it the next day normally. And sometimes,
okay, but I was,
sometimes it doesn't even get there at all, but yours did, and it was processed last Thursday.
okay. So I can meet with you on Friday then, I guess, if that's the case. I don't know.
If it clears, if it clears out by Friday, yes.
Okay. I mean, we can get into these continual technicalities, Russ. I mean, we can continue to do that.
I'm sorry, it's not a
It's neither here
technicality,
nor there.
Catherine. It's the law. Okay, I cannot
Okay.
accept your filing until your 7-day pending expires.
Okay. So, okay, whatever. So you want to set up a time on Friday, because I start patients at 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. So patients from 9 to 5. So either I'd have to do it at 8 in the morning, or I'd have to do it on my lunch hour from noon to 1. Or, I mean, I can come after work at 5 or 5:30, I guess. I don't know. Those would be, there's 3 different
give
times.
me a call midday Friday, and I'll check and see if it's cleared.
Well, why don't I call you on, I'll call you on Wednesday to see if it's clear, because I don't know is there a way I can check to see if it's cleared earlier?
No, you can't. It's in the state system, and I'll have to check with the voter registration office.
So I can't call voter registration myself and check?
No, you don't have access to the computer system. I do.
Okay, so is there a way that you can check it every day so that we can find out, so I can get this?
It should clear. It should clear sometime Friday. Okay.
Okay.
If you count from Thursday when it was processed, all right, and then 7 days, that would be to Friday, to Monday, to Tuesday, to Wednesday, to Thursday, Friday. That's actually only 6 days. Now, I can get you the statute. I'm not playing games with you.
I'm not. I'm just saying, is there a way that you can check it on today or tomorrow or Thursday to see if it clears early?
To check it today has not been 7 days since Thursday. Okay.
But you said it could go earlier than 7 days, correct?
No. Have you gotten the postcard confirmation?
Yes, I have got that.
Okay.
I got that. What day was that? Saturday?
Wow.
Yeah, Saturday. I got that Saturday.
Wow. U.S. mail finally performed.
Yeah, so I got that Saturday. That's why I thought I was okay.
No, well, they have to wait. The system has to wait to see if that postcard is returned, which then kicks it in that they throw it out because it's a bad address. So it's in the process, okay? But it can't happen until Friday.
Okay.
Actually,
so
at
even
9,
if it goes
at 9:40 a.m. is when it's scheduled to clear on Friday.
Okay, so it's scheduled at 9:40 a.m.
So I can check.
on Friday.
I can check at noon. You can call me, and then we can connect.
And I'll call you at 12 noon on Friday. Okay, so so then when I meet with you, is that when you're going to give me the precinct committeeman list, or how does that work?
I don't give you a precinct committeeman list until you're filed your paperwork, and you can't file your paperwork until Friday.
Right. So
I'll
when I
work
bring
on getting
you
a transcript.
that sheet, will you be giving me that list at that time?
You've already got a list.
That list is no good. That list is from 2020.
I know that.
So will there be an updated list? or nothing changed since that one?
Oh, there's been changes. I mean, people have died, people have moved. Yeah.
So how do I?
We'll deal with that on Friday.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then we'll see what happens here.
Yeah. What was with your poke about me meeting Steve Sumner in Wyoming or Montana?
Well, he's in Montana, and so they just had a big thing of it, and they asked, does anybody know his whereabouts? And I mean, they're pretty close together, so that's it wasn't a poke. It was like, do you know where he's at? Because nobody seems to know where he's at. I mean, I would imagine that if, you know, somebody of my friend and I was close to them was somewhere and I'm out on a vacation, they would say, hey, do you know where this guy's at too? So I didn't look at it as a poke. I mean, that's a question. Like, you know, everybody's asking. So has anybody asked you? So I asked the question.
I wanted to reply back and say, you need to check your geography because, you know, Wyoming and Montana is not close to Texas, because everything I've read said something about Texas. So.
Yeah, and what they had come up with last is that he was in Montana. So that's why I asked the question. That just came up, like it was like an hour before you had texted me. They said, no, the last thing, there must be an Air Force base or something out there. So that's why I asked you, because no, that was the last thing they said. Now they're saying he's in Montana.
Oh, I haven't been tracking it, so there
So
probably is an Air Force base, because I saw Blue Angels were out there doing a demonstration. And
somebody said he was stationed at one point somewhere over there. So that's why I asked the question.
Have no clue. All right. Talk to you later.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Now, Chris, I have to address something.
Yes.
Okay, I do, because I'm talking, because I know there's a team of my supporters out there on this right now. I'm not sure who this Dan McDonald is. Now, just me saying that, my team is probably going to start researching him.
Yeah.
So Dan puts up there, it looks like he's being accommodating.
Now,
Dan, I'm going to tell you something. I get it. You are a Russ, good old boy, and you are a fan of his. But I'm going to read something to you, Dan. This is how accommodating and misleading your Republican chair is. I had to go find this on my own. Now, if I were the people and I found a girl like me who can get research and has a team behind her that can get research to her in a matter of hours, which I'm so thankful for my team.
Yeah.
This is what I would want, because I would want my loved ones taken care of, a woman like me. So, Indiana Code 3-7-33-5F. So, Dan, I'm going to repeat that for you. IC 3-7-33-5F. If the voter receives the acknowledgement notice by delivery from the U.S. Postal Service and presents that notice to the county voter registration office in person before the expiration of the 7-day period, the county voter registration office shall change the record to indicate that the applicant is now an active voter and officially registered to vote at that address, even though the 7-day period has not yet expired. Now, he asked me specifically about that card. He knew that that was the law. He tells me that's the law. Well, why didn't he tell me what Indiana Code was? And if he didn't know what Indiana Code was, and he's been a Republican chair for this long, he probably shouldn't be a Republican chair. Now, what gets me even more floored, before I got that from my team, I had text message with Russ, and I had sent him a picture. Oh, that's right. Let me just back up. My boyfriend's son was not in school, so he came over to the house and he took a picture.
Not your boyfriend.
Yeah. And he sent me a picture of that card. So it was at my house that I'm living at. And he says, and so I sent it to Russ. And Russ goes and sends me a picture that says, well, you're still pending. So I send back to Russ, well, on the state registry where I looked at, says, if this is an error, talk to your county elected administrator. So I asked him who that is. He says, no such position exists. Really? A state site tells you to follow up with somebody, and there's not a position like that? Okay. So I sent him a picture of what the state says about the county election administrator, and nothing. So I stop patients because this is all taking place around noon. So that happens at about 10 o'clock or so. Then about 11, people have found this Indiana code. So I run up to the elections office at noon. I stop everything. I run up there. I walk up there. I said, "Hey, can I get my voter registration marked active?" He's like, "Absolutely." I'm like, "Great. He changes it less than 30 seconds." I said, "Can you print me off a copy of that you've changed it?" "Absolutely." And he gives it to me. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so Dan, you promote him as much as you want, but I got a problem with this.
I want to say this because so I was listening to this, and I've listened to this like 3 times this call preparing for this, and we were listening to it right there. And so for all transparency, I want to say I know Dan. Dan, I love you, dude, but that did not remotely sound like a person who was being accommodating. That sounded like the Russ that I've always known, and it sounded like that dude was literally tripping over everything that he could say to say anything but, yeah, okay. Because first and foremost, he didn't know anything she was talking about. And then towards the end of the call, he knew the second that card, it doesn't say it's going to be till 9:38 and 42 seconds. The sun's going to be past the meridian. It's like, dude, what in the absolute hell? There is no way. Russ was literally just making crap up in that phone call. And as far as anyone telling you there's no election administrator, listen, as far as I'm concerned, the election administrator is the chief election clerk. It is the elected clerk of the county. That is the chief election administrator. And for Russ saying, no, you can't call down to the Secretary of State's office and you can't ask, you need to have the special access to the computer that I have. You can call in local government and state government and do any damn thing that you want. You can call the clerk's office. You can walk your happy little ass up there. You can go down to the Secretary of State's office. Russ Willis, the only thing that Russ and all of the other, I don't understand what goes on, power-hungry, bizarre freaks that are in these positions that are not elected, mind you, and they are power-hungry weirdos, the only thing that they have access that you or I don't is this secretive list of precinct committee people that they control. Other than that, he can't do a damn thing more or different or powerful than you can because they just don't give those people a power. And you proved yourself because you were able to go do it in 30 seconds.
And here's what you would want in any corner. They don't know the word no. They want to fight for the justice of the people. They will do their work. They will investigate things. They will go find those codes. And that's what my team really is built up. I mean, I'm telling you, Maureen White, Sean, Todd, Amy, Jason, they are just outstanding researchers. And this is what they do. And I could not even get as far as I am without all their knowledge and all their research tools. I mean, I can't give them enough kudos. Shelley Harvey's another one. I've never met her, but she's been wonderful at giving me things that she's seen things pop up on the internet. There's several that have stepped up. I've never met these people, but boy, they have really been great to work with. And these are the people you want to represent. These are the salt of the earth people. And that's what I want to do. Because the last time I looked, I'm no different from anybody. Sure, I own a medical practice. Sure, I've got my doctorates. But the last time I looked, I put my pants on the same way you do. And everybody deserves the same type of respect, no matter where you come from. And I think a lot of people find it surprising that I wasn't raised with some silver spoon in my mouth. I was raised in a trailer park. There's nothing wrong with that. Great things come out of it. But I'm just saying. So I'm amazed that he didn't offer that up. He knew I had the card. He knew it. and he didn't do anything. And the one thing that we left out, and the reason why he was pushing this so hard, you have to have that paper in his hands within 72 hours of the caucus.
Right. And that's what he was doing.
The thing I'm confused about is that I took a candidate up to file to run for office in the upcoming election. And she had not updated her address on her voter registration.
Oh, yeah.
So the clerk brought her the little piece of paper. She filled it out right there. The clerk went and inputted it and then said, okay, let's take your form to file to run for office within 20 seconds of each other. So this entire thing that he was trying to feed you sounds like complete and utter bullshit.
Okay. Well, you want me to tell you how it gets better?
Refuted in 20 seconds of research. It's just amazing.
You want me to tell you how it gets better? So I get backed up at work. I got to see these patients. By the time I get from the county building to my office, I get a text message from Russ, and it says, I'm available anytime after 4. So the clerk's already called him. He already knows that I've been up there. He knows that I've got this all changed, right? So I get held over because I'm backed up on patients. I see my patients, and there's a message that says, I'll be at Applebee's for an hour. Well, by the time I pick it up, it's already like 5:20. So now I'm running around. I race around. I have to come home. I got to get, my partner, we've got to go do this because I want it, to be recorded. So I pull up in the parking lot over there by my eye doctor across the street from Applebee's. And I hand him the form. And he says, I can't accept this. I said, what do you mean you can't accept this? He says,
listen to this.
It's not notarized officially. It's not the one. I said, it is. I said, Russ, the official thing, you see the word file stamped on this 3 times? It's up in the election office. I'm bringing you a copy. He goes, no, I have to have the original piece of paper with the seal on it, with the race seal on it. I said, Russ, it's already 6:15. So he says, oh, and by the way, you'll need a Can 12 form. I said, okay, let me write that down. Let me go print that off. Let me go figure out where I need that. He goes, well, you can bring that on the day of the caucus. And I said, well, I just got to go find it. Right? I got to go find where this form is, right? Finally, he goes, well, I have one. Because you want it? I said, oh, yeah, I want it. Give it to me. So I took it. So he did help that. Dan, he did accommodate with me on that. He did.
Wow. He's really accommodating.
Right?
Wow. Nice.
So I have to jump in the car and I have to call my friend. I'm like, listen, you got your seal? She's like, well, I'm out. I said, I got to have the seal. I got to get it to Russ. So she meets me in a parking lot. Well, in the meantime, since I'm not driving, I'm filling out this Can 12 form. So I said, hey, can you certify this one too? Okay. So she seals all those. So then I have to call Russ again. Now, remind you, I have a 9 o'clock show that I'm going to do at 9 o'clock. Well, by this time, it's already like 7:45. So he's like, hey, I'll meet you in the Payless parking lot over by the mailboxes. So, of course, I'm like looking around. I'm over at the Payless, we're driving around. So I find the mailboxes. So I'm sitting there, and I've got the window down because it was a nice day. And he pulls up real close where you can't get out of the truck. And he goes, boom. So I'm like, okay. So I look over, I'm like, yeah. And so I hand him the Can 12 and the Caucus sheet. I said, is this sufficient? He says, you did both? I said, well, I'm a very efficient person. And I handed him. That is finally how I got it to him. He wouldn't, that's, and I don't know why the election office is where you hold all that stuff anyways. Why wouldn't the permanent one be over there? And it has the stamps that you can see I've been up there to submit it.
Yeah. That's the point of those stamps. That's the point of those stamps.
That's why you keep a copy with the stamp.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With the original. No, he has to have that form. And he said to me, can't you read? Just a little. I can read just a little.
Listen, this is the thing that, and
it's fucking phenomenal.
You can take Russ out of here. You could put in Ed Carroll. You could put in Tim Hyde. You could put in Ben Wells from Randolph County. You can put any of these people in that you want. They're all playing the same. This is just their shtick. This is what they do. It is a shell game. It is what we need to get to the point where we can all believe different things, but we all need to be like, say, okay, look, just cut the bullshit. This is what the thing is. They want who they want, and there's people that are going to have to fight extra hard against that. Now, in Delaware County, mind you, remember, listen to what I'm getting ready to tell you. In this year's primary, okay, this year, we're currently in a primary election right now for city municipal offices. We had 30 candidates in Muncie that filed to run for office, various office, mayor, council, clerk, whatever. Out of those 30 candidates, 29 of them had errors on their paperwork, which, depending on where they fell, could have resulted in them being challenged or possibly removed from being a candidate. Of those 29, 17 or 18 were significant errors, okay? One of those people did not turn in their Can 12, just did not turn it in. And the state law says if they do not turn in a Can 12, the chief election officer, the clerk, must deny their candidacy. And he didn't do that. We had to file suit. It was a great big lot of bullshit, and we got ruled against. So state law was beat down by the justice system here, and she was permitted to run. But it's the whole point of they put all of these laws in place and all of these hoops that people have to jump through. And when it's the people that they don't want jumping through them, by God, you got to jump higher and harder and faster. And if you stumble just a second, you're done. But if it's one of theirs jumping through it, not only do they miss the whole hoop, they burn the house down and kill everybody there. And they still just going to be like, show up and be there. It's ridiculous. And we got to get to the point where we can all agree to that and just say, yeah, that's how it is. Because you had to go through just a complete amount of horse shit to be considered. Should we not want as many people possible to be put in this position so maybe we can get the best out of the largest selection? That's what I don't understand.
Here's the crazy thing. I know that the chances of me winning this caucus are slim to none, but I just wasn't going to give up. And that's what I'm showing Madison County. And that's why I have so many patients in my practice. My patients will say, Katherine doesn't give up on us. Katherine will fight for us when we're sick. Katherine will come in on the weekends. She'll come in and sew us up in the evenings. She doesn't give up. She's like a pit bull. And so while I know that this is all stacked against me, I want this county to know it's okay. Because in 2024, you're really going to see a team run in this county.
All right, so that's next year. So this is
so we've got what, 14, 16 months. Okay, yeah. Put your person in there. And here's the thing: whoever goes into that caucus seat, I'm going to be there every step of the way. I'm not going away. I want all these elected officials to know I'm going to be at those council meetings. I'm going to be doing everything, and hopefully you'll have me back, and we'll just start talking about all the things in Madison County.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, let's do this.
Oh yeah, I am 100% all in on that. Let me ask you a question, and I think we're going to get killed if I don't say it. Please, no one kill me, but they will crucify me if I don't. There has been a question that's been asked a couple times, and I in all fairness, you said hit you with everything. So I just want to ask you, I know nothing about this, and I'm just going to read what is there. Can she explain what happened between her and Dr. Abbott, specifically some kind of physical confrontation?
Okay, I don't know about any physical confrontation, but I was his boss in my medical practice. He was my boss in the coroner's office.
Okay.
He was tired. He was exhausted. So we decided, we just started to believe different ways of the coroner's office and my practice. He wanted, independent practice is not for the weak.
Neither are politics.
Yeah, and that's exactly. I mean, so he wanted to go back and work for a network where he could make a lot more money. I get it. And so I wanted to continue on and forge forward in the coroner's office. So we decided to go our separate ways. And that's how it ended. So,
Okay.
that's it. People come together and people go their separate ways. This is not an unusual task.
No, we've just done that here recently.
Yeah. So
I know all about that.
And I did give plenty of notice, right? And so, I'll tell you, I gave plenty of notice, that I was leaving. I even offered at the end to stay, right? And I still had, like 4 or 5 days still left, and I was going to catch up all my cases and finish everything. And suddenly my phones weren't working, my computers weren't working. He went in and had everything shut off. So I'm like, okay, well, somebody's gonna have to finish all my cases because I certainly can't even get in there. And that's kind of how it did. So that's the only thing. I haven't spoken with him since sometime in November. I haven't seen him. So that's all I can share with you people about that whole situation.
Okay. And I mean, let me ask you this, because like I said, I would talk to you all night and past the caucus, we'd miss the whole thing, but I won't keep you. I mean, is there anything to wind this down? Is there anything? I mean, there's so many things to talk about. There's so many things I want to ask you, but I think what we need to do is we need to get through the caucus, and then whatever happens with the caucus, then we'll deal with that. I'd like to maybe schedule a time to have you on next week to talk about the outcome.
Oh,
maybe,
absolutely.
if that's cool. Maybe we could have you on, if you're, well, I'll get with you and we'll set a time to have you on next week to talk about the outcome. But then beyond that, there's more information that you've got, and that's probably concerning with what's happening. And depending on what goes on, we'll talk about that as well. But just to kind of wind down and put a cap, I guess, on tonight, is there anything else that we haven't talked about, you haven't mentioned, that you think that I don't want to say the voters, because it's not the voters, but
I do. A couple things is that the 1,800 emails, the death certificates that weren't being signed, that's actually a chief deputy's responsibility. So I want to be clear about that. So we did not have those issues when I was in that office as the chief deputy. Death certificates were getting signed, things were doing. There was one outstanding one that was on an infant. I was waiting on genetic testing that can take up to 6 to 8 months. So that's why that one was hanging out there. But no, that really follows under the chief deputy's responsibilities, getting these bills paid, getting all this stuff done. The other thing is that I was totally speechless when Ken Delabastide wrote in the paper on a comment from Chris Burris at the last county council meeting that they are unable to find my laptop, my phones, and those things. And what amazes me is that the paper did not reach out to me for my comment. They just wrote that comment. Well, listen, I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. And so just before I came on this show, Lapel Chatter had somebody anonymously put this on Lapel Chatter, which is where I practice medicine at, and put Dr. Callahan with all these question marks. Well, Dr. Callahan responded, and she responded with pictures of her camera, her computers, her files were all loaded in the Tahoe SUV. And on top of Katherine sending those pictures, she even took a picture of the mileage with a full tank of gas when she returned that on a Sunday, completely vacuumed out, because Katherine wanted to make sure that there was never a question. And Katherine filled that gas tank on her own money, not the county's. When I returned that, because the county gas station wasn't open on the weekends. So I did respond with that. So these things that might be coming out in the Herald Bulletin, if you have a question, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer that. So I told you in the beginning, everything's fair game. People can ask anything they want. And you don't see me stuttering and sputtering like Russ was.
No, yeah, right.
So I'm an open book. This is who I am. I'm not a perfect person. I'm just me. Somebody asked, are we taking new patients? And this is truly how I get new patients. I mean, I don't know how many I picked out when I was out electioneering the past couple of years for Sheriff Beeman, and then when we were running for coroner. But I mean, I'll even meet people sitting at the deli talking to them, and they're like, "What do you do?" And I tell them, and they want to be my patient. So you just have to call and talk to Cindy. She'll tell you, what insurances we take and what insurances we don't take. So but my patients are not for the weak. If you don't want a direct provider who's going to tell you exactly like it is, you probably shouldn't come see me. Just tell it. And my patients will tell you that, Joy. She'll just nail it right out of the ballpark. She won't mince words. But that's the whole thing is that don't believe everything you're reading in the Herald Bulletin.
Sure.
Do believe everything you read on MGAP. So Madison County Coroner Accountability or Madison County Accountability page, you can definitely believe everything that you see on that Facebook page, and I encourage everybody to follow that.
I'm going to share this real quick and show so people can see what we're talking about. Share this on the screen. While I'm doing that, where can people find you on social media, or what can you tell people about that?
I'm a very basic girl. You can find me just on Facebook under Katherine Callahan. As you saw when I talked to Russ, I just said I'm Katherine Callahan. Russ does not believe that my doctorates deserves to be addressed as Dr. Katherine Callahan. He said it's not a real doctorate, which amazes me because his daughter's a registered nurse. I mean, that's kind of an insult to nurses everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, because all nurses work hard, even associate prepared nurses. We all work hard for that license and that board certification. So, but he won't address me that. And if you notice, he never did that with Abbott either. I mean, he was just adamant about that. He said elected positions don't deserve titles like that. I said, well, really? Because you call somebody Judge so-and-so, well, that's an elected position. It's not that they've earned that position. We've actually went and got these degrees and we've earned our titles. But yeah, so he won't. But Government Accountability page is an amazing, it's ran by the people, for the people of Madison County. Nothing is ever censored. What's amazing is almost everybody on this page of Madison County Accountability page who's involved with it has been censored from Russ's Republican page. Now tell me about that. Tell me how a Republican chair censors the people that he's supposed to be serving. So nothing gets censored here, but I will tell you, if you post on Madison County Accountability, do make sure your facts are in order, because we will come back with factual things. Do not get your feelings hurt, but we want people to know the truth. So we're not doing it to be mean. We're doing it to say, we understand your position, but here's the reality of it. Kind of like with Russ in the postcard. Here's what Indiana code says. Not sure how you want to handle that, buddy. So that's kind of the thing. I'm okay with the caucus. I'm in a win-win position either way. If I don't make this caucus and I don't win, this Republican Party is going to show you that they're really rhinos and that they really go the other way. I'm sure there's some that are true Republicans who are going to vote my way. I just don't know that there's enough for me to get carried over. These are pictures that I've helped. That's the one way you can find me on Facebook. I've got a picture of the beer cooler there. We've got a beer cooler there. I want everybody to know that you can sign up. We've got beer cozies coming from Rich. That we have a Rich wine and his beer coolers and compliments of that. We're hoping to raise some money off of those coolers, the cozies, so that we can actually help Madison County get a beer cooler. Since we can't get grant money, we'll see if we can get some donations. And maybe one day this county will have a respectful morgue, but there itself is what our morgue looks like.
For the record, that's not like an actual beer cooler with beer in it. That's where bodies are.
There's bodies in there. Yep. And I've got pictures. I'm happy to share with you what it looks like on the inside. I've got pictures of us with the semi-trailer as well in the back. We were so excited to get this. People can't even understand how excited we were to get this, because climbing up in that semi-trailer, doing the lift to get there you go. Inclement weather, that is truly what we had to do. Now here's a man, has a doctorate's degree. And what's he doing? He's out there using what we've got of a lift, getting those bodies in the back of the semi-trailer.
You would think this is Walmart, man. You would think that this
is 8 months.
You would think that this is a delivery at Walmart, and this is not somebody's loved one getting ready to be put inside a shitty little aluminum pole barn here. inside of just an asinine setup here. It's completely shocking what you guys had to deal with.
Right.
Moreover,
going from this to the pole barn was we were elated. And there was an article that was put out early on when Abbott and I were in office the first 8 months, and it talked about the Dunahays and everything. And Marianne was on. It gave a comment, and I'm telling you, Marianne, it was probably the best comment she ever made. Best comment. She said, we were grateful to get anything we could have. They got leftover cars. I get it. I get what she was saying. This is like when you get crumbs, you're so excited. And so it's not just our office. Her office too struggled. Ned struggled. Marianne struggled. Danielle struggled. So it's the coroner's office. But the county has to understand, we don't make you money, but we keep you safe.
right.
We learn from the dead to help the living. This is a great thing. You know how we picked up that so many people were having pulmonary embolisms from COVID? We were having all these natural deaths. And what we noticed on a lot of these people were getting pulmonary embolisms, and that's why they were dying. So we were able to call over and talk with the emergency rooms and talk to these people and say, if they've just recently have COVID and they're complaining of chest pain, you may not pick it up right away, but get them started on blood thinners right away, because they probably have a pulmonary embolism working. Their shortness of breath, all of that. It's not the respiratory failure from COVID. They've probably got a true pulmonary embolism. Now, you've got medical doctors who have resources at the hospitals that we can have direct lines in, and we can call them and say, hey, start looking at this. We can't wait for the scientific evidence to come out, guys. We need to make some changes right now, because this is our 5th one like this. Those ER doctors jumped on board and said, absolutely, and started testing more for that and saving more lives. That's the reality of why you have a medical person in that office. So for the people out there, if I don't make it, you're still going to see me for the next 14 to 16 months, just banging it out here with my amazing team, Sean and Laureen and Todd and Devin Nork. That's the biggest one. I can't say enough about Devin Nork. He's going to run for commissioner. He's an attorney. He's 26 years old. That boy has got it going on. He's an amazing kid who is grown to be a man since he's been doing these elections for the past 4 years. He is one to watch.
Awesome.
But let's get behind these people who are going to come out. You will notice who to vote for, because it'll be all over my business, because I'm right at 13 and Pendleton Avenue. It's a great location.
Oh, yeah.
Most people right by there know who to vote for. I just put their signs in my yard. If the sign's not in the yard, I probably wouldn't vote for them. Just telling you guys. So that's kind of how we do it.
Awesome.
But it's all going to be good. I'm around. Feel free to hit me on Facebook anytime. I love to hear from all of you guys. And any question is fair play, because I'm here for you people, right?
Yeah.
Without the patients, without the community, I don't exist. I work for you, even in my own medical practice.
Yeah.
So it's been great talking with you guys tonight. I've appreciated all the support that's come on tonight. Dan, I love you too. Keep those great questions coming. I love to be kept on my toes.
I love it. No. So just a couple things real quickly. In the description of this video, I have linked her social media page, so you can jump on it there. Also, in the description of this description, I have posted the Madison County Facebook page she was talking about. Will go up. I go there frequently and look. I will absolutely tell you that you're welcome back here anytime. Kate's the producer. She's the lady that jumped on a little bit ago and had some questions for you. She's down in the back rooms doing what she does. We've got another gentleman here that's part of the podcast, Brandon. He's been in the comments a little bit. I'm sure he would like to have you back sometime, and we would definitely love to have you back and talk about all the other corruption going on. Would definitely be welcome to having anybody from your team on. Sean and his wife would love to talk with them if they're ever so inclined. Anybody that's got any information. The main important thing is, and I saw a couple people write this in the comments, folks, if you want to get involved, but you say, I don't want to run, I don't want to get on all this mess, I don't want to run for office. Run for political office. Run for
Precinct chair.
Precinct chair. That's what I mean. Run for
Yes.
precinct chair. Go in and tell them that you want to be a precinct committee person. It is a good way to help out, test the waters. Maybe you might want to run on something later on. It's a good first election to get involved with. If you win or lose, it's not something you got to spend a whole lot of money on. It's not a big make or break election. It's something you kind of test the waters on. And it is at the same time a very minor office, but one of the most important, because what we see is, I'm going to tell you right now, in the city of Muncie for the last 4 years, we have a 9-person city council here in the city of Muncie. In the last 4 years, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people resign from the council seat, and we've had 6 of those, means we've had 6 caucuses. We've had other moving around in the Muncie and Delaware County in the last 4 or 5 years. We've had like 10 caucuses on both the Republican and Democrat side. And what that means is that's when those parties, just like this, are getting together and they are having people go into a room and select, a very few of them select who's going to be representing us. So then we have those people selecting who's on the council, and those people are now really unelected people. And so you want good people doing that. And if we don't have precinct committee people and people don't go out and run in their districts, we get a situation where the precinct committee people get to appoint those precinct committee people. And that's why she's running up against what she's running. And that's the issues that we're facing all over the state of Indiana.
Now, the one thing I do want to say to people, if you don't want to run for precinct committee, we want you to. But if you feel you have information that's going to help our cause,
yes.
if you message Madison County Accountability page, if you message me, and I will tell you, I have an overwhelming number of people who are sending mail to my office. My office is Right Family Practice in LaPel. We're the right choice for the right reasons all the time. So we're Right Family Practice. So, you can send mail to my office. You don't have to put your name on it and stuff. If we feel it's worthy of something, we will make sure it gets moved and we will get it out there on social media. But you are always safe with us. None of us will tell where we got the information from unless you want us to. So there's always a way to be involved in this politics. Just let us know what we can do to help you.
Absolutely. That's exactly correct. And that's the same thing here at the Political Spotlight. Of course, we have a long history of not burning sources, and we will get the information out. Now we will, I would gladly say I will work and partner with the doctor here and see what we can do. I would love to help out in Madison County and help spread the word and see what we can do to make a change and get people woke up, shake them, get them educated, get them out, get them involved, and help make a difference. Well, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate having you. I'm going to send you down below just for a second, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with you.
Oh.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody for tuning in tonight.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Katherine Callahan. She is running for coroner in Madison County. The precinct committee people over there will be appointing her or one of her other 2 or 3 opponents. They will be doing that at 6 p.m. on Monday, the 21st. That's 2 days from now. The 21st at 6 p.m. One of the things that we didn't talk about, and there was just so much we could have talked for hours, is I think right now, as of now, the precinct, the party caucus is going to be closed. If you want it open, you could call and put pressure on your precinct committee people. You could call and put pressure on your elected people. You could call and put pressure on Russ Tell them that you want it open, you want transparency, you want accountability, you want communication, you want to be able to be a part of the process and see what is going on. It's bullshit to hide the stuff behind closed doors. So you can always do that. We've got just a few days here. Spread this message. Send this link. This link will be posted on my social media, which is at Christopher H. Bilbrey. Kate will put a link up hopefully here in just a moment, maybe on the screen, which will be my Facebook page. You can find it there. You can find me on Twitter. There's the Facebook page, facebook.com/Bilbrey318. Our YouTube page is very simple. It's youtube.com/@the-political-spotlight. Really easy. We have a link just for this episode. It'll be posted out there. Please share that. Get Catherine's story out there. And I cannot wait to have Katherine on more in the future and talk about all of the other bullcrap going on in Madison County. There is some serious rot there, and we need to get it out before it takes the county down. It's right now, it's on the brink, folks. It's your choice. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me on this very special Saturday night episode. We will be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern on the dot. We will be here, and we will have more information for you. I will, of course, follow what goes on with this thing on Monday, and we'll keep you guys posted. Please share. Remember to like the show if you haven't. Subscribe. Hit the bell, and we will see you guys. Wait a minute. We'll see you later. Good night. Goodbye.